Okay, we have a trade, as a bunch of things are happening in free agency right now, but we've got MPJ and a 2032 unprotected pick 7 years from now. I don't know what the world's going to look like. I don't know what the Nuggets or the Nets are going to look like at that time for Cam Johnson. And also the Nuggets, they just signed Bruce Brown to a 1-year deal. But let's talk this deal. So, first off, for MPJ, the guy guts it out all playoffs with his shoulder injury. Was a key piece in the championship run, has done a lot of work to be on the court consistently after the back stuff earlier in his career. But he was on an expensive deal, and the playoff performances, even outside of the shoulder injury, were just spotty. Like, I'm remembering 2 years ago, awesome versus the Lakers in round 1, round 2 against the Wolves as they were desperate to score on that amazing defense. He wasn't able to do much. And that's the big thing here. You're not asking Cam Johnson to drop a bunch of 20-point games in the playoffs. Of course you would take it, but you're just asking for consistency. Can you just give us a consistent 16 or so points a game in the playoffs on good efficiency where you're going to take a lot of threes in this Nuggets offense? And the amount of open shots that Cam Johnson is going to get created for him off of Jokic and Murray, I mean, it's going to feel very different than it was for the Nets. And so, okay, we will see if the hope for consistency is worth it for moving a pick that is still a long time from now. Should be said, Cam has missed some games the past couple of seasons. I will just say that the games are going to matter a bit more night to night for the Nuggets than they were with the Nets. I mentioned the contract. Cam Johnson's just cheaper than MPJ right now and next season until his contract is up, which may have played a role in them getting Bruce Brown on this 1-year deal. Maybe it didn't. I'm not going to try to be the cap guru right now, but it certainly gives them more flexibility for something right now. And then obviously for throughout the season, if some move could open up, I mean, they just did deal one of their assets next offseason. You get it. They've got a little more flexibility, and they have a player who was really good this past season in Cam Johnson. I mean, again, like he and MPJ's numbers are pretty similar this past year, and the archetype of player is similar as well. Like really good shooting wing, where in my head it feels like Cam Johnson can do a little bit more off the dribble. His playmaking numbers are a little bit better than MPJ's. The actual numbers, like touches per game, dribbles per possession, whatever, all that still is pretty much aligned with these two. The one big difference, though, is that MPJ has played with the Nuggets and Cam Johnson was on the Nets, right? And so you now have Cam Johnson fitting in with just the ecosystem known as Nikola Jokic. He's going to cut. He's going to get skip passes for threes. He's going to play off of the Murray-Jokic two-man game, which creates good shots for everybody. And now MPJ goes to the Nets where, I mean, D'Lo's gone. He's going to Dallas. At the time of me doing this, Cam Thomas is not re-signed yet, but I assume he's coming back to the Nets. And then it's just a whole bunch of rookies. And Claxton and Daron Sharp, I guess. And there is definitely no hub of offense on this team that is anywhere close to Jokic. And so MPJ, I mean, he's probably going to have to create for himself a little more often. That's if he is on the Nets this upcoming season. I will say, though, it feels like getting MPJ and an unprotected first for Cam Johnson, I mean, unless there was an offer out there that we don't know about where there was just like multiple picks, like good picks, getting a real player, albeit one that's a bit expensive right now, and a real pick, even if it is a bit out into the future, it feels good to me. And it gets even better if they could find some for MPJ at some point. Maybe someone will tell you this is actually not good for them. I don't know. I'm just guessing with all this stuff. And in case you're wondering, the Nets could do this because they have cap space. And then as far as defensively, where, again, they just got Bruce Brown, and if Bruce Brown can get back to what he was with the Nuggets a couple years ago, if he can recapture all that, then, you know, on-ball defender, the whole thing. But Cam Johnson is going to end up being a help defender for these guys. I mean, MPJ, the most that he could give them with that and their, you know, Jokic high up on screens because he's not a great rim protector, pick-and-roll defense stuff, as well as his rebounding, like all that was very important. No, MPJ was not competing for an all-defense team or whatever, but that all still mattered. Now, it did crumble once they lost a defender, and also it did feel like they just were not as sharp on that stuff at all for most of the season, at least under Mike Malone. Once David Adelman took over, they started running more of that zone defense, and it was really freaking out the Thunder. I mean, we saw they took him to Game 7. And, of course, Aaron Gordon will still handle a lot of that help defense stuff. I mean, Gordon just does whatever they need from him on both sides, really. So, yeah, now if we do want to go down, like, previous playoff runs for Cam Johnson, it was a lot of, like, 12, 13 points a game or whatever. But again, we've never seen him playing with Jokic. We saw him in the heavy screen offense with Chris Paul and Devin Booker and like DeAndre Ayton in the playoff run, and then we just saw whatever the Nets were over this past thing. It's just different when you play with Jokic. Like there is the cliche of guy who makes teammates better, which is not always true depending on who we're talking about. It's 100% true for Jokic. So yeah, you know what? We can talk a little bit more about Bruce Brown. So the hope, of course, is that he can do what he did for them just a few seasons ago, right? Be an on-ball defender, be able to screen for kind of anybody, but also they gave him more ball handling opportunities than the Nets did prior. Getting as many players you can rely upon off the bench as possible is great. Now, Bruce Brown has not been as good the past couple seasons as he was with the Nuggets. I mean, that could matter. It could not matter. I don't know. When you show up in Denver, like, there were people who genuinely believed that Westbrook's career might be done. And then he just had his season with the Nuggets where, yeah, there's still going to be the frustrations. I understand. You can still find those plays, but he was better for them. Teams will dare Bruce Brown to make threes, of course. So you have another guard for all the really good perimeter players in the West. Doesn't just have to be Christian Brown. Do your best, please. So yeah, and as far as that 2032 pick, I mean, I'm going to be 39 years old when that thing conveys. Will my channel still be here so I can talk about whatever that draft pick ends up becoming? Yeah, hopefully. I mean, of course, it could be also a trade asset down the line. We all know this. That's about it on this one, man. I will probably end up doing another video about just free agency as a whole. You know, D'Lo to the Mavericks. We got Cornette to the Spurs. We got Capella to the Rockets. We got Dorian Finney-Smith to the Rockets. Still waiting on Ayton, but yeah, that's going to be it for me.